right, Jet fans, I'm a little irritated. I'm not real thrilled. The New York Jets pass on trading for Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper winds up going to the Cleveland Browns for a 5th and a 6th round pick. Now they did kick in the Dallas 6th round pick as well, so it's really a trade up in the 6th as well as a 5th rounder here. I'm not gonna lie, this gets me hot. I'm like all sorts of bothered by it because the Jets have the cap space to be able to make this type of trade happen without impacting like future assets. You wind up trading what might have had to be your 5th, since it's very high, it's at the top of the 5th round. Maybe you don't have to kick in the extra pick and it's just a 5th. Like that's what I was saying we should have been able to do. And we don't take advantage of these opportunities. Now, I understand Amari Cooper's contract is enormous. He's got 3 years, $20 million a year on his contract, but it's non-guaranteed. So you would have absolutely been able to cut him after any one of these years if you didn't want him. So rumors are, I think it was the Jets, the Browns, and the Dolphins were all in on this trade. I'd have to look. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know where the Jets go from here. This seemed like a home run type of trade that you could make if you're the New York Jets. It's the reason why you have so much salary cap space to kind of work with and play with. So one thing to consider, the Jets have, $48 million in salary cap space. Figure the draft class. I've been saying $20 million. It's actually a little less than that. It's probably going to cost you $15-ish million to sign your draft class. Plus, we got to make cuts. So the Jets are going to have a lot of cap space. We're going to have close to $60 million in cap space prior to our draft class. And to help your rookie quarterback with an established veteran really feels like it would have been the right move to make here. So I'm not real thrilled with how this kind of played out, but there's going to be a few options for the New York Jets. As far as free agents go, it's looking kind of thin. I'll pull up Pro Football Focus's top list. We'll go through the top free agent wide receivers, and we'll just kind of tick them off. Devontae Adams, franchise tag. Chris Godwin, franchise tag. Mike Williams, re-signed with the Chargers. Allen Robinson seems like he's probably an attractive option for the New York Jets because he's probably not going to be paid a whole heck of a lot. Odell Beckham Jr., torn ACL. Michael Gallup, torn ACL. Antonio Brown, torn brain. Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't particularly want. I think he's a little bit too much of a me guy focused on his brand. I would not go after him. Christian Kirk is an interesting option. 25 years old. They call him a vertical slot type receiver, so a little bit different than maybe your outside receiver that you might be looking to get, but I don't think he's a bad option by any stretch of the imagination. He might be an option if like Berrios winds up walking. DJ Shark is definitely a popular name among Jet fans. The receiver from the Jaguars. He's someone I would like to look at 25 years old. He has all the metrics. He's like 6'5" or 6'4". Just the perfect body size that I would like to look in a wide receiver, and he runs like a 4.3. Will Fuller, always injured. Don't want to touch him. Jamison Crowder, he's not coming back most likely. Marquise Valdes-Scantling, deep threat. Hadn't really considered him, I'll be honest. So let me know if you think he's any good fit. But then you start getting into guys like, Russell Gage, Emmanuel Sanders, Cedric Wilson, Keelan Cole. Like, you're really dropping down the list pretty far. And then you have guys like T.Y. Hilton, Sammy Watkins, A.J. Green, guys that are kind of not where you'd ideally want to. You wouldn't stamp the wide receiver 1 moniker on him. But I do think Amari Cooper had that stamp that you could have really taken advantage of. It's going to be interesting to see what winds up happening. Now, as far as free agency goes, I don't know if there's an option I really love out there. I do think that I would look towards the draft. Amari Cooper, for me, I wanted to have on a 1-year deal. Like, I would have cut him after the first year and just thrown away the 5th round pick. Now, you could look towards the draft. In the first round, you'd probably be looking at pick 10, either Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Treylon Burks possibly. If you trade down, then maybe you're looking Burks, Olave. I don't think they'd go after Jameson Williams, but there's a few guys in the first round you could target. But I think the sweet spot is definitely the second round. Guys like Christian Watson, John Dotson, George Pickens. There's a whole bunch of guys that I think could fall. Treylon Burks, I think, could fall to the second round. I think he'll be end of the first. But I think there's a few options in the draft. So ideally, in my head, I would have loved to have gone after Cooper, had him for a year while the second round rookie kind of grows, so that way you don't have that rookie growing pain, and all you're giving up is, a hefty contract for a season. I don't know. I don't love this. It's kind of irritating. Pooch Guy drops in with Super Chat. Pooch Guy says, infuriating, man. Sometimes I feel like our front office is asleep. I swear, if Joe Douglas goes bargain shopping next week, I'm going to come unglued. The sad thing is, I do really expect that to be the case. I don't think we're going to go out and, trade, or maybe not trade. I don't think we're going to go out and spend a crazy ton of money in free agency. I think we're going to see exactly what we saw from Joe Douglas the last 2 years. And I think we're going to see the relatively low contracts, those second tier type free agents that you get value on by picking them up, as opposed to like the top tier guys. Now, I still think you need to make sure you know what you have in Zach Wilson. Like that's what's frustrating to me. This was an opportunity where you were able to do that without giving away a top 4 pick, like pick 4, pick 10, pick 35, or pick 38. And I think Joe Douglas, I think he kind of made a mistake here. I'm a little bummed that he didn't make this trade. AZ Jets drops in the super chat, says, how do we not offer a 4th for Cooper is greater than a 1st for DK? Yes, no, 100%. I think we should have absolutely offered at the very least a 5th. I think you should have offered a 4th. If the 5th wasn't enough to do it. One thing to kind of keep in mind, I guess we don't have a 6th round pick. So if there was some type of thought process of like, hey, we need a 5th, plus we need to move up and around, maybe you have to give up a 4th and a 5th, or 2 5ths. I do think Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh probably have a premium on our draft picks this year because of the Senior Bowl. I think we have an opportunity to select players 2 rounds ahead of some other guys because we have inside knowledge of coaching them at the Senior Bowl. So maybe that's one aspect to look at. I don't love it. I think Amari Cooper for even a year is more important than whatever player you'd get in the 5th round. You got to think, I think a 6th round pick is like a 6% chance of hitting. I don't remember what a 5th round pick is, but let's call it 10% chance. Like that's real low. Like Amari Cooper's definitely better than whatever pick you're getting in the 5th round. Bob Marston says the Jet cap space has shrunk with last week's signings. Over the cap reports the Jets cap space is down to $35 million. Yeah, I don't think it includes the inevitable cuts that are happening, or guys that are still listed on our roster. I'm pretty sure Cameron Clark is still listed there, even though he's retired. Let's see. Yeah, over the cap has us at $48 million. So I'm not sure what you're looking at. Maybe I didn't even see the numbers for those other contracts. So maybe they just haven't updated it, but it was noted elsewhere. Yeah, look, Joe Douglas values his cap space. If you take $20 million to sign Amari Cooper, you're not going to be able to spread that out across a bunch of different positions, because you might be able to say, hey, what if we can get Justin Reed for 7? Okay, now you have $13 million more to work with. Well, okay, what else costs $13 million? Maybe you could get, maybe that means retaining a tackle, a top-end tackle. Maybe that's re-signing George Fant. And I would argue Fant is probably more important than Cooper at this particular moment in time. It's going to be interesting to see how that one plays out. Kyle Ormsby drops in, says, JD strikes me as a dollar store kind of guy. It seems like he's bargain hunting, and I can respect bargain hunting, but I don't love it when you have the resources, especially when you have the opportunity to make an impact on your quarterback. Now, there was rumors that came out about Amari Cooper calling Dak Prescott the Black Kirk Cousins. Probably not something you want to be calling your quarterback, and probably not something you really want out there. Now, maybe that's conjecture and it's not actually true, but from what I heard, that seems to be the case. Now, Amari Cooper's knock has kind of been coming up short in big spots. He's just doesn't seem to, I don't want to say he doesn't give the effort, but it feels like there's maybe another gear that he's not hitting. And that was one of his knocks towards the end of this season. So, I don't know. I don't like it. I think you got to spend a little bit of money if you want to see the return on the investment, and I think Joe Douglas kind of missed the boat on this one. Kevin Chatta seems to agree with me. He says exactly what I've been saying. JD got to take advantage of the Senior Bowl inside intel. I think that's really, really important. That you got to know that you're getting a 4-year player at a position that you deem worthy, and also you've had the knowledge of coaching these guys for at least a week. Like that is huge. You can get a lot of knowledge in a week. Guys showing up late, you understand it. You may not get that in other opportunities. Wild Wave seems very upset. Hey, that dollar store having some fire stuff. It's all right. Dollar store is all right. Jersey Dude says JD should call Seattle, trade for DK Metcalf, a.k.a. Batman, first round, 4th pick, switch with their 9th pick, first round, and give them 2023 second round. I'm not sure I'm reading that correctly. But I do think Amari Cooper for a number 10 overall, I think DK Metcalf for number 10 overall would make a ton of sense. You are giving up a massive contract, and you have to love DK the way you value the other wide receivers. Maybe you value a receiver in the second round, and whatever player you take at the 10th round, you value more than the contract plus DK. So there's a little bit more going into it. I don't know. I think the Jets become an option for DK if Seattle's really, really trying to get Watson. That's probably the only way DK makes an appearance in New York. But we'll see. NY Jets fan 4 says, oh my God, stop crying. Everyone stop crying. We didn't get a wide receiver that we need to pay $20 million a year for. We aren't at that point yet. Plus, Cooper isn't that great. GD has a plan, people. Look, I don't think Cooper is worth $20 million. I think we are able to eat $20 million and make the benefit worth it to us. Is that a little goofy to kind of say? Sure, but you know what? We'll see. I think we can get better value than $20 million for Amari Cooper. Put it that way. It's just a matter. I don't think you're getting the lock of it. Mark Crooks says Amari Cooper is not a number 1 receiver. Jets have a number 2 in Davis. I think that's fair. I think you could make an argument that Amari Cooper isn't the number 1 that he was drafted to be at number 4. I think similarly to Corey Davis, I guess. I don't know. I would have taken Cooper. I think he's a high-end number 2 if he's not a number 1. Pooch Guy drops in. He says, our receiver core is CD, Corey Davis, and Moore, and ... Mims, get the F out of here. It's frustrating, right? Like, we don't even know if Braxton Berrios is coming back. We know Jamison Crowder's gone. We know Keelan Cole's gone. What do the Jets do? Where are you going to solve these problems? I don't know. It doesn't make sense. Ugh. 1189 Paris says, I love Amari Cooper, but paying him $20 million takes away from signing other players. Plus, I have a feeling that the Cowboys asked the Jets for more, which is the usual case. I think my understanding is that all the other teams that attempted to trade for Amari Cooper wanted the Cowboys to eat a portion of the salary. The Browns were the only team that did not offer that or did not want them to eat salary. So that's why he wound up going there. So who knows? Maybe if JD was willing to take on the contract, the 5th was all he needed to do. I don't think we would have had to pay more than what the Browns did. Wild Wave says, why would we pay a guy when we are not in a win-now mode, especially in the AFC? That's fair. Look, you may want to keep your $20 million and roll it into next year. Like, even if the Jets wind up using 40 of the $60 million we have, and we have $20 million extra dollars in 2023 to really go after it. Like, I think the realistic fan in me is saying, hey, we're not winning a Super Bowl this year. Maybe it's not worth it to go do this. Like, we're not in the position that Herbert was with the Chargers after year 1 where the guy played lights out. Hopefully Zach can make that step, and then we can, really have these serious arguments, 1 year down the line. It's just, it is frustrating. I'm not going to lie. I thought this was a really good opportunity for the Jets, and if he showed out, maybe you extend him and lower the cap hits in future years. But definitely a little frustrating for me. Hawk says, as far as wide receivers concerned, it's trade for DK or look in the draft. I hope we hit only 2 options. I don't think there's only 2 options. I think that's a little short-sighted. I do think Jarvis Landry is a relatively decent option. I don't think it's a high, I don't think he's a high-end number 1 by any means. I think he's a decent number 2. But maybe that's what you want. I mean, you're trying to run some big personnel, heavy personnel with 12, 12-man personnel. So you get your 2 tight ends on the field. How many receivers are you really going to have out there? I don't know. I still think you go for Cooper. Braden says, I agree. He missed the boat. Hopefully he missed it on purpose. Hopefully he sees better boat on the horizon that he wants to jump on. Yeah, that's the thing to note too. Like maybe he likes Garrett Wilson at 10. If he likes Garrett Wilson at 10, I have no problem, passing on Amari Cooper. My thought process with Amari is more so I prefer a receiver in the second round. If you're of the opinion that you want to take a receiver in the first, I can totally understand not doing this. Jamesy says, DJ Shark not going to cost that much and also has upside. He has an enormous upside. I really like Shark a lot. I hope we get him. Fingers crossed. I don't think he's going to cost a whole lot either. KP says, a report just came out that Jarvis Landry Camp doesn't want to go to the Jets. I didn't see that, but is it really shocking? Like, I didn't think the Jets were going to be able to attract Amari Cooper to the Jets. So it makes sense, other players wouldn't want to go either. I think you definitely had to trade for a receiver to get him in here. And Michael Thomas isn't even an option. He restructured his contract. It wouldn't make any sense for the Saints to trade him at this point. Cooper's gone with the gambling issue. Godwin got tagged, torn ACL. Gallup looks like he's going to be going back to the Cowboys, torn ACL. Don't know. It's shrinking quick. Kyle Ormsby says, it's not the end of the world, but it's annoying. If JD doesn't have a plan this offseason, then they're going to be heck to pay. Heck, I tell you. We got to start winning some games. Landon Hahn says, add A-Rob to be a veteran presence who can still play. On the decline? Maybe. Maybe he bounces back too, but even if he isn't what he was, he'll still be helpful to Zach. Draft Watson and McBride in the second round. Landon, this is exactly where I'm at. I think that you take your receiver in the second round, you help out your defense in the first round, or maybe offensive line if you want to go that route. But I would prefer solve offensive line plus Robinson in free agency. Go with the wide receiver, take Watson and McBride in the second round, or if Burks falls, or if you want, any of the other wide receivers that are going in the second round. There's a lot of really good guys that I would not be upset with drafting in the second round. My biggest issue is that you didn't want to go through the rookie growing pains, and I think that's slightly a concern. But if you're looking to run the 12 personnel anyway, and you have Elijah Moore and you have Corey Davis that already know the system on the outside, and you're using the 2 tight ends and your running backs, then maybe you have a little more time to work in your new wide receiver. It's definitely not the way I was kind of looking at it, but I like your thought process, Han. I think bringing in Allen Robinson with the Salah connection makes a whole lot of sense. Let's see. What else are you guys talking about in here? Yoshi says, so we don't want to accelerate Zach's progress. That's the biggest thing. You want to try and help your quarterback as much as possible. And if this hampers that, I think it's a bad move. Every question that you ask yourself this offseason, does this help Zach Wilson? And how, if we don't do it, can we help Zach Wilson? And which one is better or worse? So that's how you have to weigh everything. And I don't think this is a decision made in a complete vacuum. I think there's, other moves that could be made. So I don't think that we're done yet, but I would say this is disappointing. FM says, rumor has it Joe Douglas spends his evenings with Becton at the local bakery eating rolls. Maybe. I would eat rolls with Becton at a bakery. Why not? I just wish we would go after players that I want. Why Tygo says San Fran isn't paying a wide receiver more than $5 million a year. They only have 1 first-round receiver. San Francisco believes in offensive production by committee. Cooper taking up almost a third of our cap space is bad. This is a really good point here. So it is worth noting, and I don't know if we're at that point yet, will the 49ers extend Deebo Samuel? Will they extend Ayuk? Those types of players, because then you start running into those higher contracts, because maybe they value those players because they drafted them and they eventually want to pay them. If they let them walk or move on from them, then I think they value it at a lower price point. But I agree. I think running back by committee and I think receiver by committee, and then you build your offensive line so you can take advantage of the time that the quarterback has and the space that creates for your running backs. I think that's more important than paying a receiver a crazy ton of money. But I do think for a year, when you're trying to, kind of check some boxes on Zach Wilson, and you already had issues with Corey Davis getting injured, Elijah Moore got hurt a little bit. There's a lot of issues here. I would have really liked to have made this move, but why Tigo makes a great point. Let's see. Mitt Flair says, ladies and gentlemen, we have to see if Zach Wilson is the quarterback of the future. Not every wide receiver you draft in the first round becomes Jamar Chase. I want a proven number one wide receiver, not Garrett Wilson, the rookie. I mean, who knows? Maybe Garrett Wilson turns into a Jamar Chase. Like, I don't think he's that type of receiver, but I do think he could be like an Odell, and Odell had a really good rookie year. I wouldn't hate this draft pick at all. It's just resource allocation. Like, you could avoid taking Wilson at number 10, and you could take a Sauce Gardner or an edge rusher or an offensive lineman or trade down if you bring in Amari Cooper for a fifth. But you didn't do that. So now you kind of don't have that option. So I think you got to go after someone like Allen Robinson. He'd probably be one of my first calls on Monday or Tuesday. Nunzo says, yes, there's a reason teams are trying to hold on to Cooper, and he has been on numerous teams already. So the contract he signed with the Cowboys was a way for him to get more signing bonus and get a higher contract early on, but he knew he was likely getting cut or traded at this point in time. Like, when you sign that deal, you understand what's going to happen. It helps your team in the short term while allowing you to hit free agency quicker. So I don't know if it's necessarily the Cowboys don't like Cooper as much as, there's obviously some issues going on, but I don't think he's traded because he's bad. Like, I think Gruden traded Cooper because he was trying to build his own team, and then the Cowboys traded him because they built their team and they gave some bad contracts out to like Zeke and, I don't know if I'd call Dak a bad contract, but I would just say they needed to create cap space, and Cooper was the victim of that. Not so much his play. Jason Valente says, what does anybody think about bringing in Adam Thielen as a vet wide receiver to mentor Moore and Mims? And I think he still has some gas in the tank. I really like Adam Thielen. He's got to be 32 or 33 at this point. That's getting a little bit up there in age. If the Jets made that move, I'd be fine with it. I think there's a lot of ways you could do it. It just depends on what the contract is and what you'd be looking at as far as, is he a free agent? I don't think he's a free agent. I think you'd have to trade for him. Let me just see real quick. So if you were to trade, yes. So if you were to trade for Adam Thielen, never mind. I don't want him. Nope, that would be a bad move. So he might get cut, possibly. So $9 million of his 2022 guarantee. Oh, nope, sorry, that's 2021. So his contract would be $16 million, $17 million, $18 million over the course. Oh, no, sorry. I'm reading this contract wrong. I wouldn't mind Thielen. Thielen would be $12 million, $13 million, $15 million the next 3 years. No guaranteed money left on his contract, so you could cut him at any point. You could do that. I would like to go a different route, probably. I think it's a little bit older than I'm necessarily looking at wide receiver. Donald June says, get Allen Robinson if possible. Backup plan is Garrett Wilson and Drake London at 10. And get another lower tier wide receiver in free agency. Also get 2 pass catching tight ends, draft a tight end and a free agent. I definitely want to double dip at tight end, and I think you should double dip at wide receiver. I mean, you're losing a pretty good chunk of them, and you wanted to bring in one anyway. And I don't think it's a lock that Mims makes the roster next year. I think they'll take him through camp, and then if he doesn't perform well, he might get his walking papers. 1189 Paris says, Garrett Wilson is my number 1 wide receiver in the draft, but at number 10, I would rather draft these players first if they are available at Kwanu, Thibodeau, Hutchinson, or Linderbaum. At number 10, I don't think any of... Well, I think Linderbaum's going to be there, but I would not take Linderbaum at number 10. There's a few other guys I would take before I took Linderbaum. If you trade down and Linderbaum's there, by all means, make the move. But I think inside the top 10 might be a little rich for taking a center right there. Jabrams says, if we sign Allen Robinson, draft a receiver in the first, and draft McBride in the second, are we still mad? I don't necessarily think so. I still want to go receiver in the second round, but I don't think we're as hot about it. I think we're just bummed because JD hasn't really attacked that yet. So we'll see. Nunzo says DK will be a Jet. Give number 10 and get DK and a pick back. If they're looking for Watson, maybe that's your leverage point, but I would think you'd want to hold on to DK if you're bringing in that type of quarterback. Let's see. JC says, I'm happy JD is working his plan and not feeling the fan pressure. I'm sure they evaluated what it meant to have Cooper on the team, and the $20 million probably hampered their plans. I think that's the only reason you don't do this move. I think you have some other moves that you want to make, and you've weighed the pros and cons, and you've determined that Amari Cooper is not worth the $20 million. And I still think the Senior Bowl and the draft picks are a big thing here. I don't know. I agree. I do think Joe Douglas has a plan. And look, I trust Joe Douglas. I like his talent evaluation, and if he deems Cooper not worthy of that amount of money, okay, totally fine with that. Yoshi says, according to not Joe Douglas, Daniel Jeremiah, so take with a grain of salt, Landry isn't interested in joining the Jets. I would imagine most people are not interested in joining the Jets, unfortunately. Chris DiNardo says, how does a I want my catches dive wide receiver on his third team help Zach Wilson or this team? If it was just about stats, no team would let Cooper go. Something is up with this guy. You don't need that shit. I understand the thought process of why is he on 3 teams. He was drafted by one regime. Then Gruden comes in to Oakland. He trades Khalil Mack and he trades Amari Cooper to get assets back to build his team his way. So I don't think that was a talent issue so much as it was, hey, I want to get my guys in here and get all the picks I can. These are the guys I can trade away. I don't think that's unreasonable. And I do think that the Cowboys gave up a first-round pick for a reason because he was talented. And I think he absolutely helped out that team immensely when he first got there. And I do think CeeDee Lamb is phenomenal. I think the emergence of Michael Gallup is really good. And I think Amari Cooper being there helped facilitate those guys' growth. But when you sign a receiver to a 5-year, $100 million contract and you only guarantee the first 2 years, you're not paying the back 3 years. You know that already. That was just a way to get more talent on your team at that point in time and stretch out the salary than to sign Amari Cooper and maybe let some other guys walk or not be able to sign Zeke. And unfortunately, it just came time to pay the piper. That's what wound up happening. I don't think it's a talent issue for Cooper as much as it might be a little bit of a personality issue. If he was a really, really good team guy, maybe he stays on a team or doesn't get moved. But I don't know. Historia Central Productions says, you guys are all overreacting. 1 minute, everyone is Joe Douglas's. It's Joe Douglas we trust. The next minute, Joe Douglas is a bad GM and eating rolls with Becton for not taking an overrated wide receiver for $20 million and a draft pick. Yeah, look, that's why we're fans, right? We're fanatics. It's part of the term. I still trust Joe Douglas. I think he's gonna make the right decision. I just think this one was one he might have, maybe he's playing a little 4D chess and he just kind of overthought it. Or maybe I'm wrong. I could totally be wrong. If you guys have a question that you want to ask me, let's do this. If you guys have a question you want to ask me, add a capital Q to the beginning of your question, and then I'll pull it up so I can find it real quick. That way I don't throw up a question or a comment that's like not really a question. Or a comment. I guess that's not intended. Like if you're talking to one another. I don't know. We'll try that, see if that works. Jet Orange says, Browns, $23 million over the cap. Cuts and restructuring are going to happen. Yeah, they have to, right? they got to do it before the beginning of the new league year. Candle Jack says, if he was a true number 1, they'd have kept him. I don't think that's true. I think even if he was a number 1 wide receiver, you look at where you drafted CeeDee Lamb at number 15 overall or wherever they were when they picked him, 17 maybe. And then you look at Michael Gallup and the emergence of him. Why would you pay a receiver $20 million a year when you have 2 really good ones on the outside? And you could definitely find a player of 75% of what Amari Cooper gave you for, 95% less than that 20% or than that $20 million. Jesse says, I think it's Allen Robinson or bust. Real missed opportunity by Joe Douglas. I understand drafting wide receiver 1, but it would have been nice to have an upgrade at wideout without having to use a first-round pick on one. I really don't want to spend a first on a wide receiver. I'd be disappointed if we did. Let's see. Do you think Ruckert is the best tight end in the draft? I think he has a lot of upside. It's hard to tell if he's the best because he has very limited production in college. Do I want him? Yeah. If we can get him in the third, fourth round, something like that, that would be amazing. I know a lot of Jet fans kind of hyped him up a lot, and kind of got me worried that he might go in the second round. So ideally, yeah, I would prefer Ruckert in the third or fourth as opposed to maybe McBride in the second. Like maybe you want to spin it like, okay, you go edge and corner in the first round. In the second round, you go your wide receiver. You go safety with like maybe either Scene or Petrie or Brisker, one of those guys. Because once you get past those safeties, then it kind of drops off. Tight end you can get in the third, fourth, fifth round and do all right. But I don't want to really lose Ruckert. So if you can get into the third round, then maybe you pull Ruckert there, and then maybe you look for, maybe a linebacker or something. I don't know. It's going to be a few different options. Some guy says, what do you think will happen with Berrios? I get the feeling he's walking. I think Buffalo's going to go after him. They just released Cole Beasley, and I'm definitely concerned with where Berrios might go. I think he'll get offers from other teams, and I don't know if the Jets are going to. I don't know if Joe Douglas is going to be the top offer for a guy that ideally, Elijah Moore would get a lot of his snaps. I think we saw Berrios get a little bit more playing time than maybe our staff would have otherwise felt comfortable with. But I also think he's got a really high ceiling. I shouldn't say really high ceiling, but I think he's got a high ceiling being so young and growing with Zach Wilson. I hope he comes back. I really do. I would be upset if we did not retain him. Jack Connolly says, what do you think about getting Garrett Wilson at 10, spending on D in free agency? I want to do the opposite. I would rather go with Allen Robinson in free agency, fix the offensive line, and go defense in the draft because it's a defensive-heavy draft, and it's top-heavy in the defensive side. So if you can get your edge rusher and corner locked in on cheap deals, that would be absolutely enormous. I was talking with someone the other day, and let me see if I could find it real quick. It was in my Instagram DMs. Let's see if I could find it. Pause. Okay. So this is coming from Tommy Peggs. This was a good conversation we had. He really wanted Linderbaum. So I kind of broke it down this way. When you draft a center at number 10, you would be paying him as if he's the 13th highest paid center. Now, with wide receiver, it's a better option in the first round. So I do like that. You would be basically paying that wide receiver taken at 10 to be the 41st highest paid wide receiver. If you take an edge, it's the 45th highest paid edge. If it's a corner, it's the 39th highest paid corner. So that's why going with a premium position at the top end of the draft is so critically important. And for me, I think edge and corner are a lot harder to solve in free agency than a second round receiver. Like I think you can get a lot of talent in the second round. So I would prefer that over Garrett Wilson. And that's not to say I don't like Garrett Wilson. I really do. I think he is wide receiver 1. Carlo says, does this affect DK trade value? No, I don't think so. I think DK is a special case. He's kind of like a Terrell Owens, like in his prime, getting traded to I guess he got traded to the Ravens, then the Eagles, or declined the Ravens trade, went to the Eagles. He seems to me like a player that's so elite that he will fetch a nice return regardless of what happened with Cooper. Cooper's contract was really the hang up here with that. Kevin Chatta says, is our free agency a fail if we miss out on Reed or Marcus Williams? I really hope we throw the bag at one of those two guys because I don't ideally want to take safety super early. If we can solve safety with either one of them, and then you have Joyner, you have Davis, you have Will Parks, then you got a little bit of depth there. I don't want to draft safety super high. In my mind, you go edge rusher at 4, cornerback at 10 if Sauce is there. If not, maybe trade down and then try to take a Nakobe Dean in around pick 20 possibly, and then hopefully you pick up a first for next year. That would be ideal. And then the second round you go with the wide receiver, the tight end. Round out your roster. Frankie says, would you take Sauce or Trayvon Walker? Yes, absolutely. I'm in this weird flux of I would 100% take Sauce at 4. No questions asked. But if you think that you fall in love with one of the edge rushers, like Trayvon Walker, Karl Loftus, Johnson, Thibodeau, whoever it is, like whatever edge rusher it is, I think that should be the priority at 4, unless you like a lot of edge rushers. If you like a lot of edge rushers, take Sauce at 4, get whatever edge rusher falls to you at 10. I'm all right with that. Let's see. Vinny and the Jets. What's up, dude? He says, Ryan, fair to say Browns will fail him the same way they failed Odell Beckham Jr. They're different types of wide receivers, so you don't know if they're going to have the same, impact, from like a mental side of things. But we'll see. Christopher Duran drops in with Super Chat. Thank you, dude. He says, rather take great number 2 wide receiver and pair with Davis or a wide receiver 1. Rather take a great number 2 and pair with Davis or wide receiver 1. I mean, ideally it's wide receiver 1. You want to get better as best you can. I don't ideally want to see, multiple number 2s. if you can, I think you go for it. Let's see. Who else we got? Jason says, I also like the idea of getting Juju Smith-Schuster. Any thoughts from the pilot? I don't like Juju. I wanted Juju initially before we wound up getting rid of Sam, like the year before when he wound up signing back with the Steelers. And then he started doing all like the TikTok things with like the dancing on the logo, and I don't love that. I think he's about himself more than he is about the team. Jets fan forever says, I heard Honey Badger wants to come to the Jets. I didn't hear that. I heard Will Parks comment saying we're out here, and then Tyrann Mathieu said something along the lines like, oh, we'll see. Like, I mean, maybe there's more and I just missed it, but I didn't get that from the conversation I saw. Let's see. Jesse says, how would you feel about bringing in Mathieu? Would be a leader in the locker room day one and a tone setter on defense. I really like Mathieu. He's someone I wanted before he wound up going to the Chiefs. When we had Todd Bowles, I really thought there was a chance we were going to wind up getting him, so I'm a little upset with that. Kev says, did you see Georgia heavy mock draft? Had Walker at 4, Davis at 10 in the first round. I don't want to do that. I don't want to D-tackle. As good as he is, I don't want to D-tackle at 10. I'd be pretty upset with that. Yoshi goes, I'm getting ready for Jets Twitter to enter Armageddon come noon this Monday. Yeah, hey, legal tampering kicks off on Monday. It's going to be real interesting to see what winds up happening. It's going to be interesting. Going to be interesting, boys and girls. Harold H. says, Amari Cooper for $16 million cap hit and a 5th is a steal. Not sure what Joe Douglas and Sal are talking about. Harold, it would have been a $20 million cap hit, not 16. But yeah, I agree. I'm a little frustrated that we didn't get that one. Flash Aussie Gordon says, if Linderbaum is still available at, say, pick 28, do you trade up, maybe lose a 3rd or 4th rounder, assume the defense for 4 and 10? Assume defense 4 and 10. Yeah, look, if Linderbaum falls, I'm all about trading up. If he gets to like pick like just before the Titans, which I think are pick 25 or 6, yeah, I would look to move up. I don't know what it would cost you. If you get up with a 4th and a future pick, I would prefer that as opposed to giving up our 3rd this year. But yeah, I would go after Linderbaum. I would. Let's see. I saw another one in here. Where did it go? I like this question thing. As you guys come up with questions, drop that Q in front of it. Kev says, at 4 and 10, Trayvon Walker, projection, or Jermaine Johnson, production. So are you saying either Walker at 4 or Johnson at 10, or just saying either one at 4 or 10? I love the metrics of Trayvon Walker, and when I talk to Blewett, he really likes Walker. He doesn't love Johnson quite as much. I do like Jermaine Johnson a lot. I think there is a maturity level with him that I really like. Same with Walker. Both of them would be fine. And I think that's sort of why I'm a little bit more down on Thibodeau, or maybe not as high on Thibodeau. I would say I like Thibodeau's athletic traits, and I like, his upside and everything. But I like a lot of the other edge rushers, so I'm kind of more on the let's go with a guy that seems like he's all in on football, not a guy that said he didn't want to, win championships and decided to think about his life like 30 years down the line. Not that I blame anyone for that, but, when you have the option, why risk it one way or the other? Let's see. Chris DiNardo, why are you anti-drafting safety at 4 in this draft? In this zone defense, having a shutdown corner is like having a race car to go food shopping. It's cool, but not needed. Safety is more important. I think I get what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. And there's a situation where Hamilton would be the pick for me. And I don't totally love that situation. It would mean a lot of things broke the way I don't want them to have happen. I do want to solve safety in free agency. Marcus Williams is young. He's 25 years old. We have the salary cap space. Like, go out and get a guy that's a ball hawk. I think the value at safety at 4 is drastically, like, you need Hamilton to be elite. For me to want to pull the trigger on him at 4 would mean we didn't get a safety in free agency. We solved edge rusher maybe in free agency, or maybe you got like a J.C. Jackson. And then if the top of the draft winds up going like Hutchinson, Sauce, Ekwonu, and then you get to pick 4 and you're kind of like, well, we don't really want Neal. Maybe we don't like Thibodeau. And then, you're not really sure what to do. Then maybe you pull the trigger on Hamilton. But I think you would take your best edge at 4 personally over going with the safety. Robert says, who do you have as the number 3 edge after Hutch and Kayvon Thibodeau? It's tough. They're kind of all clumped together. I would say even with Hutch and Thibodeau, I'm not necessarily locked in as one guy being the best. Like, I could see Ojabo, for example, being the best edge in this class. The guy just has a knack for stripping the ball. And he's only played football for 1 year. It's tough to kind of read. I do like Ojabo. I like Karlaftis. I like Johnson. I like Walker. I like Hutch. I like Thibodeau. That's kind of why I'm more of the opinion of take the harder to get position at 4. Like, maybe that is corner. Like, maybe you don't love all the corners in this draft, but you like 3 or 4 of the edge rushers, and you're not necessarily locked in on one. If you like one, though, take one at 4. For me, if I had to pick my next favorite one, it's probably Walker and Johnson. It probably Walker, Johnson, Karlaftis, but they're all tight. It's real. I don't want to like say one's higher than the other because it's real close when you start splitting hairs like that. What else we got in here? Michael Elias says, Ryan, what I don't understand is why Joe Douglas is not being aggressive with these trades. Why not trade a 3rd for Mack and a 5th for Cooper? That easily fixes 2 of our holes. I know the cap hit, but still, you can't do that. That's so Mack was traded for a 2nd and a 6th, I believe. I don't want to give up a 2nd round pick for Khalil Mack. Not at $23 million a year or whatever his contract is. And then Cooper's $20 million. You're talking, do you want to just trade away those 2, get those 2 players, give away a 3rd and a 5th, and then that's it? No more free agent signings? Like, I guess, and then maybe you go with the guard at 4 and you go with the, I don't know. I don't necessarily want to go that particular route, but I do think it's frustrating when you don't see these moves. I don't think we're in that mode yet. Like 2023, I could see it, but we need to show that we can win some games. First and foremost. Aaron says, rather have Garrett Wilson or OBJ. Garrett Wilson. That's an easy one. OBJ has a torn ACL. And anyway, I would still take Wilson for the cheaper contract and the, not being hurt and not being as diva-y, at least right now. Michael Elias says, Ryan, what I don't understand... Oh, nope, sorry. I already did that one. Let's see. Flash Aussie Gordon from Panama says, Combine press conferences. Sauce talks leadership and Thibodeau talks how smart he is. Pass me the ketchup, please. He's saying pass the sauce. I really like this. I want to get lost in the sauce. Every year there's a player that I absolutely fall head over heels in love with. It was CeeDee Lamb 2 years ago. Last year, probably Elijah Vera Tucker if I had to pick one. I don't know if there was one I was as dialed into last year. This year, that player is Sauce Gardner for me. I really like Sauce. I understand if we don't go the route, but I do really like it. Kev Chata says, do you agree that cornerback class is deeper than O-line class? McCreary, Elam, Kobe Bryant is better value than Sauce in the first round. If you can get Kaiir Elam in the second round, I would say that is definitely better value. It depends who falls to the second. It's tough, right? Like, edge rusher, I think you have to take in the top 10. Cornerback, I'm not necessarily sure you have to. It doesn't hurt, especially if you think a guy is a lock. Urdissa Sao So, thank you so much for the super chat. He says, I'm not drafting safety at 4, still high on DK. Dude, DK's really good. If we didn't trade Sam, or we didn't trade up for Sam, there's a real possibility McCagnon takes DK Metcalf with our second round pick the following year. That's what gets me mad. Could have had him, but you give it all away. This makes sense a lot. This wasn't even a question, but do Jet fans really believe that the Seahawks want to trade DK Metcalf to the Jets? He would cost at least a number 1, and then you have to pay him $100 million on a 4-year contract. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it fits the JD mold right now. Jason Valente says, what about Brandon Cooks? I like Brandon Cooks. My understanding is he does not want to be traded, and I think you don't want to trade for a player that doesn't want to be traded for a 4th time. Like, this guy has never hit free agency, and that's also because he's signed contracts too, but I don't know if he's the one I'm necessarily looking to go out and get. Oh, my buddy, the assassin. The kitty assassin says, where's the JD praise for most fans come from? His first draft was where does it come from? His first draft was atrocious, and the only mainstay he's brought in since being here are John Franklin Myers and George Fant in terms of outside the draft, 8 to 9 wins in 22 or fire him. I'm not of that opinion at all. I do understand the thought process with being upset with Douglas over the 2020 draft, and I think my thought process and how he approached it, and maybe that's wrong, but I think he went with high RAS score guys because he didn't necessarily believe that Adam Gase was here for the long term. And I think if you go with a high RAS guy, there's a better likelihood that that player can transition to a different type of offense than maybe a guy you pick specifically for Adam Gase. And I do think Becton, Zuniga, Mims, Davis all fit that mold. I do think Pirine and Morgan were more Gase picks, and that's why they don't fit this mold. And then you wind up getting unfortunate stories like Cameron Clark. That didn't make sense. Bryce Hall was a nice grab. But then you also, for all the negative you just sort of laid out for Douglas, and I think it's fair criticism, but you also have to look at the players he's brought in. He's brought in Quincy Williams. He's brought in, guys that have, performed well in undrafted free agency or late in drafts. Michael Carter, Brandon Eccles, Bryce Huff. God, I'm losing some names right now. But yeah, there's a lot that he's done outside of just the draft that I think is good talent acquisition-wise, and I think trade-wise too. Like, he's absolutely smoked everyone on trades. So there's a lot to love about Joe Douglas, but there is a lot to be left desired, especially because of the way our GMs have handled our assets in the past. I can understand fans wanting to maybe not, maybe want to see a different approach. They want to see us spend a little bit more money, be a little more aggressive, if you will. Let's see. Bam. Jay Perez. Thank you for the super sticker, dude. He says, a beacon of light with words. Spoiler alert. Is that me? I don't know what that means. But thank you for the super sticker either way. Let's see. Any more Qs in here? Oh, we got a few Qs right here. All right. Max says, thoughts on Mostert in free agency. A really good player, but had health issues, but thrives in this system. I wouldn't hate it. I don't mind bringing back Tevin Coleman on like a 1-year, $1 million contract. I'm not overly in love with any particular running back right now. If you want to bring back a vet for $1 million, draft a guy maybe next year. So that way you maybe have a 2-year gap between rookie running backs. Maybe that's the route you kind of do. Jack Connolly drops in with a question. Says, what do you think about Kayvon Thibodeau at 10? What do I think? Kayvon Thibodeau at 4, Sauce at 10, Burks at 35, McBride at 38. I know you don't like Kayvon Thibodeau, but I love the dude. I don't love the personality, and I would say I'm concerned about it. I trust Joe Douglas to make the right decision. If they pull the trigger on Kayvon Thibodeau, I'll be behind it. But me, without having any knowledge of these inside interviews and processes and how this guy legitimately diagnoses a play, I would say I am concerned about him. But I would love this draft. I'll do this all day. If you could sign me up for that, right now, regardless of anything that happens, I don't care whose stock skyrockets, how many trades are offered. Yes, I would do that all damn day. Let's see. What are we at? We're at the 49-minute mark. Let's cut this off at an hour. So we'll go 10 more minutes. If you guys have any questions, make sure you drop the Q before your comment, and then I'll throw it up on the screen if I catch it. Robert says, will Mike White be the primary backup next season? I don't think so. I think they're going to bring back Joe Flacco, and I think they're going to let Mike White walk. I think there is some type of level of concern or knowledge that there might be a little bit of a divide amongst the fan base if Zach Wilson starts to struggle a little bit and you have Mike White as the backup quarterback. I think you're stuck kind of with Zach for the next 2 years anyway. So give him the veteran leadership this year, and then next year bring in a quarterback to have some competition with him if he doesn't take that next step. Kevin says, if we trade down from number 4, how do we feel about picking Jermaine Johnson at 10 and Mafe in the second round with the extra pick? I wouldn't do that. I think Jermaine Johnson is good enough, and I think you hope that Carl Lawson returns back to form. So I would not double dip at edge this early. If you want to do it later on, I think I'd get behind it. Mark says, Kayvon at 4, Sauce at 10, wide receiver at 35, McBride at 38. Yep, that's exactly what our other buddy had up there. I would 100% do that. Let's see. Chris Lars says, Moali Cox with his potential upside, or Zach Ertz as a known but older commodity. I would... I like Ertz. I like what Ertz brings to the table, and I do like the idea of bringing in a vet and drafting a player at the same time. I think there is value in that for sure. So for me, I would prefer Ertz, might be a little bit cheaper, and drafting, one in the second round. But hey, look, we need tight ends, so I'm good either way on this one. D. Santana says, here's one for you. When are the New York Jets going to come home to New York City? I believe there's a buyout at the end of the 2025 season in MetLife, so we could see maybe a new negotiation, but I'm pretty sure the Johnsons and the Maras split MetLife, and I don't think they're going to just give up the rest of that they threw into there. But I do not like that stadium. I think it's a very bad stadium. The Real Utah Jazz says, I love Douglas, but he's being too passive. These are the years we need to build up the roster with a quarterback on a rookie deal. Yes, I agree. But you want to see a rookie kind of take that step, because you don't want to have your rookie flounder and not do well and then spend a ton of money on areas that may not necessarily help. And I think receiver is absolutely going to help, but I think you'll see the big spend next year. I think you're going to still continue to see this base built. Joe Douglas got those 2 first-round picks, so he could build the roster the way he wanted to, and then he's going to plug in guys that are expensive in the holes he wasn't able to fill these last 2 years. So I don't know. I see what you're saying, and I get it, but if Wilson had the rookie season that Herbert or some of the other quarterbacks had their rookie year, then I think you'd see the money spent, but I think because he did not is why you're seeing maybe a little bit more of the money-conscious approach. Flash says, who is under the most pressure to perform in 2022? Is it Corey Davis, Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams, or Becton? Huge implications for their contracts. The most pressure is probably if Lawson can't do anything. If any one of those two can't do anything between Davis and Lawson, they're going to get cut probably. I would say Davis and Becton. Becton is probably the most critical because he might eat himself out of the league if he can't prove the doubters wrong that he is in shape and that he can stay healthy. I think Becton has a ton of pressure on him going into next year. What are your thoughts on the Jets trading down at 4 or 10? It would depend who's on the board. If the Jets do love an edge rusher, take the edge rusher at 4 or 10. 10 is the one that seems more attractive, but now I don't know if it is attractive because I don't think Washington's a threat to take a quarterback at 10 or at 11 anymore. So I don't know if people feel they need to trade up as high. So maybe 4 if Seattle wants to jump up in front of maybe they deem the Giants possibly worthy of taking a quarterback. I don't see that happening, but maybe. Maybe Carolina takes a quarterback. Maybe Seattle wants to jump in front of them to get their quarterback at number 4. I would do that, and I think depending on what you do, you wheel and deal a little bit. See what you can get in terms of players and picks. Joshua says, have you seen Daniel Jeremiah's interview with Rich about the Thibodeau's decision to not work out? I think you are onto something about Thibodeau. I did not see that. If you have a link to it, though, I would love for you to send it to me because I would like to watch it. I want to know as much as I possibly can, because me getting the not so warm and fuzzies about Thibodeau gives me concern because I've wanted him for so long. I love the talent, and I want to be wrong, but I'm definitely concerned, and I think he's dropping down other people's draft boards because of the same issues that I've brought up. Sorless says, would you be opposed to drafting the Michigan running back Hassan Haskins later in the draft to give us a power back at the goal line and in short yardage situations? I'm good with getting a power back for sure. The running back that I would like to possibly target, I think it's Cooks from Georgia. The guy's got really good hands out of the backfield. I don't know where he's set to go, but he's someone I would keep an eye on. I wouldn't mind bringing in like a 4th round or 5th round running back at some point. I think that's fine. I don't mind either way. Sean says DJ Shark for $12 million or Allen Robinson for 16. I would probably go Allen Robinson for 16. I would bank on him having a bounce back year, and I would still draft a receiver in the 2nd round that I would hope has a ceiling comparable to Shark, but at a significantly lower price point. Like if I'm taking Shark for $12 million, I'm still gonna have to invest a pretty high pick in wide receiver. And he's coming off the injury, so you maybe worry a little bit about that. I don't know. I don't think you can go wrong either way, but I might err on the side of Robinson and hope for the upside with the extra $4 million. Ooh, there's a good one. Frankie says, Watson, Pickens, or Dotson? I like Watson more than the other two. I like Pickens a lot. Like Pickens, I think, has the most talent of those 3, but Pickens also has, from what I've heard, some either off the field or like some kind of headache-y style personality traits that may not be super favorable. If he crushed his interview, I have no problem taking him. I think he could have been the best receiver in this draft if he didn't tear his ACL at the beginning of spring training or whatever it was. He only played in the playoff game and I believe the final regular season game of the season. So if they deem him healthy, he's elite. He really is. But I really like Watson, and we got to practice with Watson at the Senior Bowl. So if I'm looking at it, I would prefer Watson over the other 2. But you really can't go wrong with any one of these 3. I'd be ecstatic if we got any one of them. Shane says, what do you think about 2 D linemen in the top 10 this year, KT and Trayvon Walker or Jordan Davis? Cut Lawson's full $15 million next year if he isn't the same player after the injury. I want to bring in a vet edge in free agency, and I would like to draft an edge inside the top 10. I don't think I want to draft 2 edges inside the top 10 because we just have so many holes. And I think you're onto something to an extent about Lawson. I want Lawson to come back fully healthy because the way he played in training camp and the passion he showed me for being a New York Jet, like watching him laying in bed with like the Jet hat on and him going JTS, Jets, like he gets me excited. That's the type of player I want on this team. I think he's the right personality, and I hope we can hold on to him and hold on to him. So I would definitely not draft 2 edge rushers or defensive linemen in the 1st round because you just paid John Franklin Myers, you got Quinnen Williams, just get the other edge and just make it work. I do understand where you're coming at with that though. Mark, you see Hutch drop to Fordall. I think it's definitely a possibility. Here's how I could see it happening. If you go at number 1, they go offensive linemen. So let's say Ekwonu is their top pick for the Jaguars. At number 2, would it shock anyone for the Lions to take Sauce Gardner? He's from Detroit or from Michigan. I could see them go that route. I always thought Hutchinson could go number 2 to the Lions, but upon review, talking with a bunch of people, they don't run the same type of defense. He's a 4-3 down lineman, and they run a 3-4 defense. So he's not really as big of a fit. I would say Thibodeau fits better at 2 than Hutchinson does. But I could see Sauce go there as well. And then at 3, if the Texans wind up trading Watson, maybe they pull the trigger on their quarterback at 3 if they don't want Mills, or they wind up taking Hamilton because he is the star-studded prospect, the generational prospect, and then you have maybe the Eagles picks at 14 and 15, and then you see Hutch drop to 4. I do think there is a possibility that happens, and he would 100% be my number 1 because he's the type of edge rusher that I think could be comparable to like a Bosa and really, really take advantage of it because I think Lawson can be that bendy style edge off the other side and get the strip sacks the way Ojabo did at Michigan. I definitely think he could fall to 4. I don't think it's likely, but I do think there is a situation where I could definitely see it happening. All right. I think I saw a super chat in here. Let me see if I can get the super chat real quick. Yeah, let's get to that. I'm going to get through these super chats, and I'll probably hop off. So if you got something, send it in. Taps any button. Thank you for the super chat, brother. Says, JD got something up his sleeve. It's too obvious. I trust Joe Douglas. I really do. I've been saying in Joe we trust for the longest time. I really think he's the best talent evaluator that we've had as a general manager, and I think he can absolutely, surprise a lot of fans. Like, as much as people are down on him today because we didn't get Amari Cooper, I think he will get people super excited because he went a completely different route later on. So I don't think that's the wrong way to. I think you're looking at it the right way. Taps any button. New York Jeff, what's up, dude? Thank you for the super chat. He says, Ryan, I love you. Jeff, I love you too. He says, but let's be real. Allen Robinson is not coming here for $16 million. Free agents always get overpaid, and for him to come to us, he will get 4 years, $77 million with $45 million guaranteed. He's 29 years old, so you're basically, if you're saying you're guaranteeing him 4 years at $77 million, what would that be math-wise? It's less than 20, so it's got to be, what is it, $19 million a year? I mean, if you're splitting hairs between $16 and $19 million a year, but it's a 4-year contract, so I see what you're saying. So a 3-year deal, 3 guaranteed with a team option for a 4th year. It's possible. I get it. I think the connection with Allen Robinson is that he will definitely be cheaper than the top echelon wide receivers, and then you're hoping that his relationship with Robert Saleh might influence his decision to come here. That's the hope. Will Allen Robinson go to a 3rd team where he's got garbage quarterback play coming into it? It's possible. I don't know if I do think there is a Jets tag still. I definitely think there is. It sucks because you don't want to have to see that, but I do think that's the sad reality. Until we start winning games, that's where we're going to be. All right, boys and girls, it's been a lot of fun hanging out with you. I'll keep my eye on who's out there, and I'll keep my ear to the ground trying to hear any rumors possible. If you hear anything, let me know in the comments down below. Let me know who you want. If you're upset with Joe Douglas not making the trade, let me know in the comments down below. And as always, go Jets.